please explain the immense contribution Manly P. Hall has made to metaphysical and historic?
All right. Let me tell you, I can't really explain the immense contribution that Manly P. Hall has made. You know, Manly P. Hall write a whole heap of really good books still seen. One of my favorite books from Manly P. Hall, which I can read some from, is called The Occult Anatomy of Man. But Manly P. Hall writes some things like the secret teachings of ancient societies. So he capture everybody, speak a lot about Atlantis. But you never look through the lens of Plato, because they're Greco-Roman people. But he write a lot on those things, but I mean every different kind of society. And what he do is show the convergence amongst these different ideas from different ancient societies. But remember, I know who Manly P. Hall is. Manly P. Hall is a man who entered the Masonic order as a 33rd degree Masonic person. He never go through the regular ranks like a neophyte. That's the kind of respect. He have fame and thing. And when Manly P. Hall was writing, Manly P. Hall was not writing for the general public. That book you published in 1911. It says not the general public that writing, but write to a specific audience. But the reality is, the information I present is what people should know. But you know, in a place like Jamaica and other places, people question the order like the Masonic order. Rightly so. See? But I also realize that it's because enough people have a lot of information on that order. Because, remember I said the Masonic order, you know, you have not all persons who are Masons are members of the Illuminati. But all members of the Illuminati are Masons. So what is the distinction? So remember, say you have 30 degrees. So from 1 to 30 is the man who are the Mason. From the 31 to the 33rd degree are the ones who are members of the Illuminati. You know, and then, you know, generally people say, boy, members of the Illuminati are also what they call members of the reptilian. One thing you know that black people cannot be members of the Illuminati and things still, see? So Manly P. Hall is one of them man there and thing where there's enough information in provide, enough useful information though, for our people in particular, because most of what he has written about really stems from out our people. So if matter about Atlantis, it's still what people matter about. Matter about ancient Kemet is what people matter about. If I talk about Ethiopia, I realize that a lot of those writers deliberately don't mention anything about Ethiopia, but mention a lot of things about Ethiopia without using the word. So I'm going to give you an example now out of one of my favorite books, which is called The Occult Anatomy of Man. What Manly P. Hall did, he started off by saying that all persons who are theologians and religious persons were persons involved in anatomy. And so he explained to them that the Bible itself that people read, and this is what people who are religious, the Bible is really about the anatomy of man. So let me tell you what the head represents, what the heart represents. You know, sometimes we do that in like the tree of life, you know, with the yogi poses. All those things are explained. So I'm giving you the physical and the metaphysical interpretation. So for Rastafari people in particular, see, I found this very, very interesting. That in the book it's called The Occult Anatomy of Man. This is what? Page 1. Page 54. Let me say it's like the third to last page. He might write some stuff and this is what him argue. It is well for us to consider the grip of the lion's paw. I'll put this in context. Enough as far as youth use the lion paw, especially enough I will child as bird ample in the Nyahbinghi house. We use the lion paw because you know, so we talk about Rastafari's lion and I Selassie the lion of Judah. All those things we're speaking about and things still seen. But it was intuitive because I this the lion paw as like the strongest grip. Where you can, you know, and when you see people with a lion paw, they have a kind of affirmation night with a kind of strength. You know, they show you the strength of a lion. Not knowing though, you know, explicitly that these were things written off by these people like Manly P. Hall. Then you have a youth like Taurus Riley who sing a song with the grip of the lion paw. Hopefully you can play that song in your background when you do your recording and bring it out some more. Here I'm saying now, it is well for us to consider the grip of the lion's paw, one of the world's oldest symbol of initiation. I'm saying ancient times, so note him saying ancient times, that I mean say is since the Masonic people, you know, ancient times means thousands of years ago. In ancient times, I'm at all the Kemet. So you have to when people are going to enter into the pyramids. So if you read a book by like Herbach written by Lubbock will tell you that when persons are going to enter into the mystery system of ancient Kemet, which is the enter into the pyramids, the first thing that they did was to actually tell people to go and plant. So it's that kind of sermon they talk about what happened in ancient times. And say, In ancient times, the neophyte, who means somebody who's entered, neo means new, on his way through the mysteries of Egypt, temples, was finally buried in a great stone coffer for the dead, later to be raised to life again by the master initiate in his robes of blue and gold. Now, this speaks about this speaks what them call the rebuilding of Solomon temple. It's the same principle of the phoenix when you move from rise from the ashes. It's the same principle of creative destruction. It's the same principle of what they call the resurrection. How man moved to one higher self through a series of experiences, etc. Some say when the candidate was just raised, the Grand Master wore upon his arm and hand the paw of a lion as a glove. And it was said to the newly raised disciple that he had been brought to life by the grip of the lion's paw. Here I'm talking about a young virgin now who was a neophyte, who moved to the temple and become a master mason. And so the process of moving from a neophyte to a master mason is to be raised by the grip of the paw, because it's the only grip where you can lay on the ground flat. And I can raise you perpendicular. You stand perfect like I. So I tell you Rastafari. Perfectly straight. Yes? And so it was crucial in terms of that own ritual as a symbol to say, okay, this person has moved from them lower self to them higher self. And I'm going further to explain, that the Hebrew letter Yod, which is used in the center of the triangle, and is sometimes a symbol of a spirit because of its flame-like appearance, means, according to the Kabbalists, I don't know what the Kabbalists are. The Kabbalists is not just about the Hebrew people. Kabbalah comes from the Kemetic word Ka and Ba. It's like our Virgin Kabaka pyramid, because he was mostly into Egyptology, so he just started him things still. Ka represented the universal soul, and Ba represented the individual. So the bringing together of the universal and individual is what the purpose of the Kabbalist teachings are about. How you move to a higher state of consciousness through practices as outlined in the Kabbalah. So the Kabbalah also have something similar to the Tree of Life. There's like all around there for the right nice book, the Tree of Life, with the 13 principles in Kemet. You have a similar principle like that in the Kabbalist as well to still see. Many places have the same thing. And also we know that the triangle with the dot in it is similar to the circle with the dot, because the dot represents what them call your state of consciousness, your first eye. I'd like people to read that text here, because it have a lot more explanation than what I'm giving you right here. But also continue the explanation. So we say we understand this to symbolize. That is a symbol with the flame in the triangle. And of course the triangle represents 3. So when people understand the Masonic order, remember the man arguing is that say, you have the material, you have the intelligence and the spiritual plane. Yes? The material plane, them say is governed, I think, by the intelligence is emotion, the spiritual is mental, and the material is something I don't remember right now. You can't read it, you remember, but I remember everything. But I'm saying when you bring together those 3 principles, you form the sacred triangle. And you know is in line and being represent that black dot, which is the same thing as a flame in this idea right here and presented. So I say we understand this to symbolize the sun, spirit in man, which is said to be enthroned in the sign of Leo, the Lion of Judah. Now the sun is a very important symbol for Masonic people, because the sun is from the word Sol is the name of the planet, which is the sun, And there's the idea of Solomon. And I'm talking about the rebuilding of Solomon's temple after it has been destroyed. And I'm argue that is when you rise to that state of consciousness, you're actually rebuilding Solomon's temple. And when you reach that state of enlightenment, you become the perfect cube, which is the head cornerstone in the rebuilt Solomon temple, because a block is really a cube. You know what I say? So let me say everybody is a kind of rough block. But through the process and the experience you go through now, you become the perfect shape and the perfect fit. So you become and the head cornerstone represents the crucial element in the foundation of Solomon's temple, But it's also used to represent the highest point in Solomon's temple as well, which is the point of enlightenment. Essentially, it's the principle of correspondence, as above, so below. If you don't have the head cornerstone where it is, you can't have anything but the apex either. But I know myself that stuff, but I'm just finishing. So we understand it to symbolize the sun, spirit in man, which is said to be enthroned in the sign of Leo, the Lion of Judah. And as the fruits of the field and the seedlings are grown and developed through the sun's rays, so it is said that the crystallization of man is broken up and dispelled by the light of the spiritual sun. The spiritual sun, say my pun now, you have the spiritual sun, plus you have the external physical sun. The spiritual sun, which raises the dead with its power and liberates the latencies of life. That's the principle of the resurrection again. You know? So the building of Solomon temple, the rolling of a stone away from them, sarcophagus, them say them have Jesus, you know. All these things are the same things people are talking about how you move from your lower self to a higher self. I might tell you there are money parts to the mountain top, you know. But once you're there, the view is still the same. So enough different people take enough different trad man. So I can't tell a man say what you know, show you say is a Buddhist or you say is a Kabbalist, or I say is a Rasta and I say is this. You come like I right and you wrong. To each his own. You understand me I say? And so every man will know which part they're supposed to take. And let me reach them thing. And the truth is, when a man busy and leave fire, you know, no time for criticize other people. You know? You ring on the time for criticize other people. And the reality is a man can always identify truth. So I can see a Muslim man live him live. I mean, I appreciate the thing we do because I say, watch out. But importantly, remember say the Muslim man them, you know, when them go to Mecca, you know, the black stone, them meditate on, it's called a Kaaba, you know. Yeah, it represents the black dot. All of the people are the same. All of these things are the same. So the spirit in man with his eyes that sees in the dark. Now which eye see in the dark? It's your first eye. So when we are going to judges now, we are going to low school, the man have a part, because we have to study religion. The man, I think in Matthew 6, him say, if thine, him say, the eye is the light of the body. And if thine eye be single, then thy body be full of light. And the man him always ask, what do these things mean? How is it that Peter, James, and John could go there and call Jesus to the Mount of Transfiguration when Moses and Elijah came and appeared as pure light? He went up there and transfigured into pure light. How comes him see him? How comes those people could see him? What were they studying? What do these things mean? You know, and so it gives you a sense of seeing things not just through your second eye, your third eye, but really through your first eye, which means that everything has some other meaning. The same principle of correspondence. You have a physical meaning, but there's also a metaphysical meaning. But note, all the teachers, and they call Jesus in the Bible teacher, them call him master, which is what people call other people. Them call him Magi, them call him Jedi, them call all kind of different names. Him that teach people. An example would be like them say, all right, the virgin is supposed to walk on the water, which is levitation. And so because him have doubt, like oh yeah, here, Dylan start about doubt by the way. When him have doubt, him start to sink. But the part I certainly tell about say, what happened because when him start to sink, the story tells him in the boat, how him going in the boat. I swim going in the boat, and he get my walk on the water. Now we'll assume, I would assume, say him get up and him walk. Which means say him getting him confidence and things still, removed out, and him levitate going into the boat. You know what I say? But people do not speak about the practices. And if you read that text, and I'm not a Bible person, you know, when you read that text, all of those teaching, the process of transforming water into wine is alchemy. The process of healing people, some people call it Reiki, is about realigning oneself. All these things are explained more today by contemporary people and how religious people would have almost have a taboo to try to understand what these things actually mean. But it's really about pure metaphysics. How do you transform, how you multiply a couple of bread and fish into something that people can consume? And what does fish mean? Because it's the Essenes, so you don't eat animal according to the principle of the Essenes. See? But if you know that fish represented the age that they were in, which is the Piscean age, that's what fish represents. And then bread is a general name for food. So essentially, persons were being fed physical food but also spiritual food. And then multiply both. You know, is that no magic still? No? You know, I just say, yeah, we just think. The spirit in man, with his eyes that see in the dark, is ever striving to lift the lower side of man, of his own nature, to union with itself. So the lower nature of man with itself suggests that oneself is of a higher nature. But through the process we are going through, people struggle to become one with that. You know the man called the overself, like the Tibetan man will call them overself. Yes? When the lower man is just raised from materiality by the higher ideals which unfolds within his own being, it is said that the spirit of light and truth has raised a candidate for initiation by the grip of the lion's paw. Now you see now, I know as far right, not for I far right, bridging them. We don't even read up or something. I never have any chance of bun book. And bun book don't necessarily mean say you bun the information, you know. No matter about a lot of the misinformation. Because truly the difference between knowledge and wise mind is really intuition, you know. That which comes out of self. And some Rastafari ones who never read and write tell us that Rastafari is the first book, which is true. Which is what Manly P. Hall is also saying. Because he was saying that the book where them people have as them highest book, which is them Bible, is nothing but a reflection of the anatomy. Same called the Occult Anatomy of Man. So if a man truly understands oneself, not just in the physical self, but in the intelligent manner and the spiritual manner, the reality is you have all the information that you need. And science show you that. Science show you that when you take a microscope and you look into the structure of your cells and you go straight at, and then you examine the galaxy, it's the same structure. It's the same exact structure. Because the microcosm is a reflection of the macrocosm. You know? So that's why you find that all of the ancient man, them, what do you think them do? Cut off all them slave senses. Try not to get distracted. So they put themselves in a secluded space. You not hear, you not see, you not smell, you not taste. So you know what I mean then? Once those 5 senses are locked off, is a higher sense. And in going into self, knows them actually find them true self. So in our ancient societies, in Eastern societies, a man put himself in solitary confinement for find self. In the West, a man put himself in solitary confinement for you lose yourself. Big difference. Because have to do with mindset. See? A man knows that you'll find yourself by yourself. But any man who's afraid of being by himself, that means I'm still subject to fear and doubt. And that's what our society do, you know. It put fear and doubt on people that people feel say you can only do well if you're in a crowd. So you have a pandemic now and the people are afraid. Because they can't go out and do all kind of things with all kind of people. And yes, still, most of you don't even know most things about yourself. We have never spent any time. You think about a man who works from 9 to 5. He have a weekend life, you know. It's not about a weekend life, he have a one-day life. Because he get up for go to work. And he get up from 5 o'clock for go to work for 9 o'clock. And he left work 5 o'clock for go home and take the next 3 hours. So by the time he reach a female, they sleep, must sleep for work the next day. And he left for 5 days straight. And Saturday come now or Sunday come now, boy, I have to go wash, I have to go cook, I have to go market. So Sunday alone, and Sunday get to go cook whatever I cook. So they probably have 3 or 4 hours out of Sunday now for themselves. And they spend that time there press them close. So they don't really have no time for themselves. You know? So it's a distraction. And so I think that the contribution of people like Manly P. Hall is really just to provide a lot of information that people can use and decipher and remember as well to do that no matter what information you have, if you don't know it already, it can't make a sense to you. And I always say you can't, if you shine light in a vacuum, which means that there's nothing inside it, you don't want any light. But if you shine light in a space and there's anything inside it, it reflects and the entire place becomes bright. So as I said with information, if I see something that makes sense, like how you're shaking, that's you know already. But guess what we do? You rather read a book outside of yourself rather read your own self. So when I say just sound like we're bright, is that bright, we're bright? I mean, we accept what we know, and we're also willing to learn from others because these are reminders of you in terms of what you should know.